Welcome back to the Crooked Spine Show interview. Let's figure out how to use your heart rate monitor. This is 2025 properly to find your optimal health. If there's an objective scientific way to measure our health and improve it before we have a serious medical event, let's do that, please. In today's interview, Dr. Torkil Færø, correct?
That's right.
Dr. Færø helps us understand our body's internal stress regulator, and then how to measure it to regulate and improve our optimal energy level. So, Dr. Torkil, why did you get into this book? Why did you want to write this book? The place it's called the Pulse Cure.
Yeah, I'm gonna start because I was starting using ECG monitor that I had taped to my chest at all times for 2 years or so.
Got it.
And
Okay.
then my publisher asked me to write the book. So they saw
Really?
that I was doing this weird thing, tracking my heart rate. Who were doing that? And I was explaining that this is a measurement of the autonomic nervous system, a way to
Good.
control and regulate your stress levels. And then I had no intention really to write a book in the first place. I was only in it for myself, for myself to get better, right? And then they asked me to write the book. It was a totally new subject. It is the first book on how to use variables and heart rate variability in Norway and also in the world, which is why the book has been translated into 7 languages, of course, including English. And so it was new territory. And yeah, the book in Norway has just been a tremendous success. So it's been one of the biggest bestsellers for a long time here. So it certainly changed my life. But so initially it was for my own good, for my own health. And then, of course, writing a book is also very interesting because you really have to know what you're talking about when you're presenting it to other people in the form of a book, of course.
Of course.
So I still use it now every day. I really need it because the success of the book, my life has been like being in a tornado for the last 2.5 years. So I really need to be able to control and regulate my stress levels.
It's almost when you write a book, like you had mentioned, you have to really look into it from a reader's perspective, your perspective, not only to sell it, but also to make sure people use it for the right reason, correct?
Yeah, yeah, right. Because it's as many tools, you have to know how to use it.
Mhm.
And for some people it may not be the right thing to do. Some people may be too stressed about it, to have because it's like having a dashboard to your physiology. Suddenly you see the strain that your body is under, and you need to face reality. And not everybody either want or will know how to deal with it. Putting away the watch or the ring, it will not either solve the problem. The problem will keep on going. But many people would rather not know and
Mhm.
hope for the best, right? So, but for the ones who would think that, okay, there's a way to track my health and to navigate towards, better health, I would want that. Those are the people that I've written the book for, and that has been working for so many people. Yeah.
It's almost when you track something, you're able to now see, am I getting better, worse based on my diet, my, like I said, stress level, my lifestyle, maybe a job change or my job in general. So it really, I think, looking into what I've read so far, phenomenal work, and I want to get into it. Backing up, also, you mentioned people not using it or getting information, not really putting action behind it. How has basically medicine? This is the U.S. Obviously, you're in Norway, correct? Is that Torkel?
I'm in Norway, that's right.
Different environments, different governments, different healthcare system for one too. How has the normal, I guess, medical system helped people prevent injuries or health conditions? What have they used in the past? Has it been more EKGs, more blood work? What have they done in the past to, I guess, guide someone in the right direction?
I don't think they have been doing that.
I
The
agree.
healthcare system, both in the US and in Norway, is based on waiting until you get sick
Hmm.
and then do something. And
Hmm.
there's too much money into that system. There's too many people, just like myself in my normal job. making our livelihoods from sick people, treating sick
Mhm.
people. And so there's not enough incentives to keep people healthy. And I must say that I studied medicine 30 years ago. I've been working as a doctor for 26 years. And we did not learn how to create health. We learned how to diagnose disease and find out what is the mechanism and what would be the cure. We didn't even think that lifestyle mattered much. Sleep, uh, gut microbiome, epigenetics, exercise, uh, all of these things that I'm writing about in my book were not known. We didn't think it mattered much. So we had our focus elsewhere on treatment instead of prevention. And that is, as you know, it's a rule more or less in the whole world. But there's a big change coming, just like on this podcast and most of the podcasts, and all the doctors that would be updated, they would know about inflammation, insulin resistance, oxidative stress, and they would know that by making your mitochondria function better, you would make all of your organs perform better. But this is not what we learned. And this is, in my guess, at least in Norway, something that 90% of doctors still don't know. I'm not sure if you have what's your
It's
opinion
the
about this,
same
but
here, if anything worse, because people depend on the healthcare system to really get them healthy, which their health is based on, you had mentioned too, on more medication. The medication to bring your blood pressure numbers down, not really help you change your lifestyle that caused the problem in the first place. Or
yeah,
diabetes type 2, for example, too. Or like you'd probably know too, Ozempic, the drugs that we take out here to look better, but not really change your lifestyle to actually be better inside. So people, but I did mention there's another population of people that can afford private health care that see the concierge doctor. That it's not a lot. It's not a lot more money to get healthy. So in the long run, they have a higher quality of life as we get older, increase our quality of and longevity in the long run. So there's a, like you said, a paradigm shift to go. This isn't working. I'm willing to pay out of pocket. What's going to take me to get healthy? I know that system that I've been dependent on for my whole life is not helping me get better. So we're in
yeah,
the same page, I think, in healthcare systems in 2025.
yeah. And the good thing is that the creating health is free. It does not cost any money. What is expensive
Supposed
is
to be.
getting sick, and
Yes.
particularly in the U.S., because in Norway the healthcare system is free, or or
Okay. Okay.
or you would pay $300, and any amount above that would be financed by the government. All right, so it's
Yeah.
basically free. And but in the US, I know that you pay a lot if you get sick.
It's a lot of out of
And
pocket. It's a lot of where they'll take it. And some hospitals, which I've been told, have a whole floor of just for their finance department to collect on their premiums, deductibles. People will take mortgage out of their houses to pay for health
yeah,
care that way,
so
but not
yeah,
worry about their own personal health.
yeah. So Americans they tend to, the diseases that you contract from your lifestyle tends to take all the money you saved for retirement away from
Mhm.
you, right?
Exactly.
But all the advice, the Pulse Cure, although it's about how to use wearables and use heart rate variability, the main focus in the book is the strategies that makes you live healthier and longer. And the good thing is that the effect of that is revealed in the heart rate, which would be no surprise to, the ancient doctors 2000 years ago. They would know that your heart rate will tell you a lot about how your body's working, what's going on the inside. So all strain on your body for whatever reason, inflammation, whatever you do that is bad for your health, it will be revealed in the heart rate, which is kind of beautiful for a doctor, that the very basic functions of our body, the breath and heart rate, the pulse, is what reveals this state. And of course, when you have it on your watch or on your ring or on your Whoop band, you have instant access to this information, and you have artificial intelligence, you have the algorithms of millions of users, and And this power pack, makes it easy for the companies to show the state of your system to yourself, and you can have the control.
It's like you said, it's now you have the way to monitor it, way to now change it. It's just doing that in action for one too. And you'd mentioned too, part of it is how it reads the body. What is the, I guess, heart rate connected to the autonomic nervous system? Someone understand what someone does not understand what that is. Dr. Torkil, can you explain that to us, please?
Yeah, so what these watches and devices measure is heart rate variability.
Good.
That
Okay.
is not the heart rate in itself, which could be 60 at rest and 150 while you're running for your life. It's a variation between heartbeats, and that is a measurement of the state of your autonomic nervous system, the foundation of the nervous system in your brain that governs, the self-regulating functions of your body.
Good.
That is divided into two parts. It's the sympathetic fight, flight, and freeze part, the mobilizing part that helps us take action, either towards something that we want or are hunting, or away from something that is hunting and chasing us. That is the 100 million years old system. And that has this on system, the sympathetic part, but it also have an off system, the rest and digest, the parasympathetic part. And we need to be a lot of the time in the parasympathetic part because that is where recovery happens. That
Good.
is the state where the immune system performs at its best, so it helps us, eliminate so many of the diseases.
Good.
And the good thing is that the heart rate will perform or behave differently whether we are in the parasympathetic mode or in the sympathetic mode. In the restful parasympathetic mode, when we breathe in, the heart rate will go up a little bit to take advantage of the extra oxygen in the lungs. And when we breathe out, the heart rate will slow down a little bit, measured in milliseconds, just to save some energy while there is less oxygen in the lungs. But if we are in the stress state, for whatever reason, whether we have been eating something we cannot tolerate, have been drinking alcohol, used nicotine, whether fertile women is in the week before menstruation, and so many different reasons, then the heart will beat at a very steady pace, regardless of us breathing in or out. So it's like this ancient system considers that this is a dangerous situation. We need to use all available forces, even now that there's less oxygen in the lungs. And of course, then these trackers can keep track of these heart rates and reveal whether we are too stressed for our own good or whether we get enough downtime for our body to recover.
And it's almost, if someone's in a chronic stress state, what would you expect them to see, say, on a heart rate variability monitor?
Then you would see a low heart rate variability, a low
So,
variation between heartbeats. So the body is struggling. It's kind of running at a high speed, even in the daily life. And over time, and we are made to stress, but we are made to relax also.
mhm.
So the problem is chronic stress, that we are constantly under too much stress, more than we are constructed to handle. When we put these kind of devices on hunter-gatherer societies that still exist today, we can see that they are in the active, moderate activity 2 to 3 hours a day, and the rest of the time they are relaxing. And we do not live that kind, and we have so many factors against us in the food that we eat, in the alcohol we consume, in the lack of sun exposure, in so many things, in the sedentary lifestyle and so on. So there's so many things that is hurting our resilience and our capacity to deal with the strains on our body.
It's
So
almost if
there's a low capacity and too much stress with too low capacity.
it's almost like our even though our society tells, especially in the US and say big city life, to work 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, go hang out with your friends, sleep is not very important. You can sleep when you're dead, whatever it is, too, the saying goes. It's almost that'll lead you to now long-term problems that your body's trying to tell you, hey, look, you're going down a road to where you're going to have a heart attack, you're going to have a stressful event, you're going to have possibly cancer, you're going to live a short life, shorter than you actually think you'd want to live.
Yeah. And the last 20, 30 years of your life will be dominated by some kind of disease, taking medications, visiting doctors, being out of shape, so that everything is a struggle. So, and we have more control of this than we thought, or even that I thought as a doctor. So optimizing, or rather normalizing our physiology is helpful, not only to stay away from the expensive bills, but it will also give you a longer life and more well-being in the moment. But you have to make some effort to do that. It does not come for free. You have to exercise, you have to make sure you sleep, you have to stay away from the tempting, hyper palatable, addictive food that the food companies want you to buy. You have to minimize alcohol. So there's so many things that you have to do to resist the temptations.
Question for you. I'm curious. Do you have McDonald's in Norway?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then do people gravitate toward that food or more, say, natural, healthier foods in Norway? Or is that just personal preference?
There would be probably a divide between the ones who know what they should do and the ones who don't know.
So it's no different than the US.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, and I make my livelihood as a doctor and an ER physician from the ones who don't know or don't care.
So you have job security then. Got it.
Yeah. There's no shortage of patients, and the frustrating part is that I know that they wouldn't need to be there. The majority of them would, if they follow the advice in the Pulse Cure, which is easy. Everybody really knows what to do. They would not need to be in my office needing medications and shorter, more strugglesome life.
And going down that rabbit hole a little bit, if you saw someone and told them, hey, look, this is what you have to do to change your lifestyle to actually get, I don't want to see you again, and you see them again, what's their excuse for not changing their lifestyle or doing something different that brought in the first place?
Well, in the first place, people are not very happy to be told that they could have done something with this. The ones who know that will already have done the changes. Okay, so the ones that come to me, they are the ones that, even though the information is there and everybody knows what they should do, they are the ones who don't want to do that. They don't want to hear that they could have done something. They come to me with the expectations that, okay, I'm sick, you're the doctor, it's your job to fix me. And they rarely want to hear that, okay, there's something you could do here to avoid coming back. So I'm generally working with patients who will not change even if they have to. So many people will not change even then, like after a heart attack or after getting some kind of disease, they still will not change.
Almost like, Doc,
which is why I'm writing the books.
Yeah, it's almost like, Doc, give me a new heart so I can start this thing over again and mess myself up, and I'll see another 30 years, right? That's what they're hoping for.
Yeah, but they have been told from the healthcare system that this is the way it works. They have been told, like I learned in medical school, and that was my impression, that disease is either bad luck or genetics. Of course,
exactly.
Outside smoking, we understood that smoking was bad, after 30, 40 years. And then most people will not have the knowledge that they can affect their health in a significant way.
And you mentioned doing basically about sleep. How does your heart rate variability change when you sleep better or worse, or is that even the right term to use?
Yeah, so what is very useful about the wearables is that they can assess the level of recovery during sleep. So the better heart rate variability that you have during sleep, the more recovered you will be the next day. And there will be so many factors disturbing night sleep. For example, if you have a late night meal, most people who start tracking their system understand quickly that you need 3 or 4 hours from your last bite until you go to bed. And that will make the whole night much more calm, because you're not waking up a digestional system that really is not
Um,
made to work at that time of day. So we have a circadian clock, we have our cells perform at their best in different times of the day, and our digestional system will not work very well at night. So a late night meal would be terrible. And if that
okay.
would be a meal like a pizza or some junk food, that would be even worse. And people quickly understand that alcohol is the worst killer of sleep.
Mm,
And that is even what I, as a doctor, thought was a good to sleep, to get
okay.
better sleep. So I used to do all the things wrong that I'm writing about in the Pulse Cure. I used to do everything wrong, actually. There's not a thing in the book of the advice that I give that I, even as a doctor, did not do wrong only 10 years ago.
It's
But
almost
what
not
happened,
knowing
yeah,
it. It's just being naive, right? It's not knowing what the truth should be.
yeah, 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 we don't learn about these things. I knew, for example, that it was very uncomfortable with a lack of sleep. As a doctor, you work night shifts, you work evening shifts, morning shifts, night shifts. You just switch the clock back and forth. And I understood, of course, that it was very hard and it was very uncomfortable, and but that it was downright dangerous and carcinogenic. We had no idea only 10 years ago. So now, of course, we know. So what's changed my lifestyle was that my father died at 73, and I understood that, okay, if I don't change my lifestyle, I may not live even to that age. And then I just understood, okay, I had to find out how can I live longer and healthier, so that I can, accomplish whatever I want to do in my life, to go traveling and see the whole world and so on. So, and I had not really cared much about my own health. So I was 40 pounds overweight, did not train at all, did not care about food or sleep or anything. I just cared about traveling, and seeing the world. So.
It's almost like once you see that, okay, is my genetics telling me at 73 that's it for me based on my genetics only, or can I actually change that? And the actually obviously made the big change and put it on paper. So thank you.
Hmm. Yeah, so we used to think that genetics would be what determined your life
Mhm.
expectancy, right? But now we know that that is just maybe 15% of it.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
80-90% of your level of health and longevity is determined by how you live your life. And we know so much more about that now than earlier. So,
And going back to exercise, you had mentioned that. How does exercise basically change, increase, or better or worse your heart rate variable? And how do you monitor that on a heart rate monitor? What would you see?
yeah. So if you would have a poor fitness level measured
Okay.
in VO2 max, so VO2 max is a measurement of how effective your mitochondria and your whole physiology works. So many people will discover from their watches, because they often will give you an estimate of the VO2 max,
Got it.
that their VO2 max is maybe among the worst, quarter, the worst 25%. And that would be, some of the worst thing you can do for a health outcome. So if you have a poor VO2 max, then your body is struggling all the time to perform, and you would need to exercise a certain amount to get that VO2 max up, so that your whole circulatory system and your mitochondria work more efficiently. So it's like, yeah, it works. Your heart rate will maybe go down from, say, 75 to 60, so that your whole body is just working more smoothly, doing the same job with less effort, so to speak,
Got it.
which means that there will be more reserve energy for your immune system to do its job, which is why VO2 max is one of the strongest predictors of longevity and health.
Nice.
So it's important to incorporate a certain amount of exercise and movement into your lifestyle if you want to stay healthy.
And just to, if, for example, for one, if someone say ran over a period of 10 weeks a mile a day, they should see their VO2 max drop a certain percentage to show a better health state for them, correct?
And if they were starting from being sedentary
Yep.
until running a mile a day, their VO2 max would improve, so that their body would kind of metabolize oxygen easier, than it used to do. Their mitochondria will be better. Exercising is a sign to your whole body that this body needs more mitochondria, more powerhouses in the cells, so they will, use the energy to build more mitochondria. And the organ that needs mitochondria the most, that is the brain.
Got it.
So that is the densest, mitochondrial place, so to speak, and it will help exercising to improve your brain.
You're almost causing a good stress to your body to make your body now build more mitochondria. So your brain and body can have more ATP, more energy to function at a more efficient level. Correct?
That's right. And even when you use your muscles, they will make something called myokines, which is proteins that will help
Mhm.
the different cells to build new connections,
Nice.
and even new cells, particularly in the hippocampus area that is connected to memory and so on.
You're almost helping
So
someone. Good. Good.
yeah, so movement is one of the most important things in the pulse cure. And what is important once you start exercising is also not to exercise too hard.
Yeah, got it.
Because
Okay.
if you're starting from a poor VO2 max, then any exercise will be a huge strain on your body. And you will be able to see that. So my Garmin watch will, from a certain exercise session, will give me an estimate of the time I need to recover. So
Yeah.
I was running yesterday, and then it gave me a 36-hour to recover from that, so that I should not train until after those 36 hours. Because you need to, where the body builds itself stronger is in the recovery phase. So you're straining your body, and in the recovery phase is where it builds itself even stronger. So if you are exercising too much before you have recovered, you're just breaking yourself down, so to speak. So you need to pay attention to the intensity and duration of your workouts compared to your physiological capacity, and that is what these wearables are, very good at finding.
Mm. That's one thing I have my watch. Even my older Garmin doesn't. It tells me recovery time. I go, yeah, thanks. I'm going to work out tomorrow no matter what. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, so often you would be surprised at the length of the recovery.
Yeah.
And of course, I would have been able to run today, but if I would have been training smarter, I would have allowed my body to build itself even stronger, right? So, and you can Google that, that training based on your heart rate variability will make people need less training, um, less effort, and they will be stronger for it because they are, optimizing the intensity and recovery.
Is there a difference between, for example, cardio, running, elliptical, whatever it might be, versus weights relative
Yeah,
to
I think
weight?
that, yeah, I think these watches will not be able to estimate the effort from strength training as much as they would do cardio.
Okay.
So,
Awesome.
and that is because the heart rate will not respond as precisely to strength training. A heavy workout, can lead to more strain on your muscles than will be reviewed in the heart rate.
There's
So
not
that
a
makes it
not a direct
a little more
correlation for
difficult.
one too. How about
Yeah,
CrossFit or HIIT training? Is that something where it's pretty efficient with that?
yeah, that it
Okay.
would be. Yeah, because
Okay.
that would be the heart rate would follow the intensity more accurately.
Okay. And that's usually like, and that's the thing. People like to cross train, say 6 days a week, and
Yeah,
maybe wait.
and that could be way too much because and
Yeah.
it would depend on the overall stress level. So if they have a busy job, they have a busy family life, they have some food intolerance, and then they go all in on all their workouts, that is not sustainable. And I used to I used to be on the national squad in canoeing in
Mm,
my youth, and
wow.
we had only one. It was either all out, and
Sprint. Go.
getting totally tired, and every day. So, and I'm sure if we had these watches and devices back then, it would have shown that that was a horrible way of training, because we just thought that okay, the harder you train, the better you will be. It was
Mhm.
it seemed easy, but now the best athletes know that recovery is so important, and they of course they use red light therapy, they use cold water immersion, cold plunges, and so on to optimize the recovery phase and not only the exercise.
And going into it too, and personal question also, I like to do marathons. Are marathons a good way to get to optimal health, or is that something where it does wear your body down?
Yeah,
Say
it would.
short term, long term.
Yeah, so it would, if you're, well, I ran New York Marathon last year, and so if you're a marathon runner doing a lot of long runs, it may not be optimal for your health. So what is optimal for your health does not need to be that, you know, that would probably be maybe 3 hours of exercise a week,
Hmm.
probably 80% of that in zone two with a low heart rate,
Got it. Okay.
which would not require a lot of recovery time. That would probably be the optimal for health. So people who exercise, 10, 12 hours a week, that may be optimal for performance, but not necessarily optimal for health. It may be too much strain, creating too much inflammation in their bodies.
That's why when I have people that want to train for marathon, I go, the biggest thing is avoid injury. And you do that by making sure, like you had mentioned, doing the recovery and doing the right recovery in between your runs for one, also and spread them out. So you may do maybe one long run during the weekend, but do shorter ones during the week
Hmm.
and keep it.
Yeah.
How did you train for yours, Doc? How do you train yours, Dr. Corco, for your
I
marathon?
uh, I tried to find out how little can I train and still
Good.
run a marathon. So that was my project. So I was just actually running half an hour 2 times a week for a year. Of course,
Okay.
I'm not a fast runner, so it was like 5.5 hours. So it was a fantastic run though to New York City, and the atmosphere was fantastic. So, and that was my intention also, that I didn't want to run around New York and just be totally tired. I
Yeah.
wanted to take in the experience also. So I was not, maybe I could have run faster somehow. So, but now I have doubled that training. So now I'm running for 1 hour twice a week, and also include, so some steep hills, and so it's more intense what I do now. So, but now I'm also in a better shape, so I can tolerate that level of exercise better. And what is important is not necessarily the heart rate as you're exercising, but how your heart rate responds after the exercise.
Okay.
So now I can see that I go much faster into the parasympathetic mode and the recovery mode after a certain intensity and duration of an exercise. So that's important, and that is what you will see on your Garmin. And I must say that Garmin is by far the best choice, and probably also the cheapest choice for people.
And going into one of my questions too, which Garmin's do you recommend? 2025. This is May, almost June. Which Garmin's do you
Mm.
recommend to really get to those zones and be more accurate with your I guess heart rate variability and controlling that?
I think the Forerunner series, the cheapest one would probably be $250 for a Forerunner 165, uh, and the more expensive ones, they probably have some functions that would be better, but I think you get most out of it even at that level. Of course, the more expensive ones may have more battery time. There may be some functions when it comes to training readiness. So my Garmin will give me a training readiness for a certain day, based on what I've been doing for the last 5 days, taking in sleep into the account, taking heart rate variability into account, and the amount of exercise and so on. So that I think that is very useful.
And you said which number?
To
Which number Garmin Forerunner?
165, 165.
165. Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
How do you
and
like the
they
Aura?
have so many different. The Aura Ring.
Yeah, well, actually, go back to Garmin too. Does that help
Yep.
also regulate your sleep also when you do the
Mm.
Garmin? Good. So it
Yep.
regulates sleep also.
Yep. Yeah, and the Garmin is good at giving you a total number for your sleep. So I often find that, okay, say if I get a sleep score of 85, that is very accurate compared to my how I feel I've been sleeping. And but it's not really good. It can often, even if you're awake at night, it can still interpret that you are sleeping. So that is a downside about the Garmin, but it will still be very accurate about the total score, so to speak.
Nice.
While Whoop is a lot better, and Aura also better at determining if I've been awake for an hour or hour and a half, and so on. So, but they will not. All the different wearables will put a different, how to say, weight on the different measurements. So even an Aura would not think that heart rate variability is as important as Garmin and Whoop, for example,
Got it.
when
Got it.
it
Okay.
comes to the recovery score that you get in the morning.
Okay.
So
Good. 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 And with yours too, you mentioned part of your book. What is the body budget? We had talked somewhat about it, goes around it. What is that budget? What does that typically mean in your book?
yeah, so the Garmin watches, they will give you a body battery score in the morning, which should be, most of the days it should be 80 or more, and it will go down to rather not below 20 most of the days. And that is how you can see that you have sort of a body budget. How much have you been saving of energy during the night? How much have you been charging your system?
Good
And
recovery.
what is draining your system throughout the day? And most people will get surprises, both to what is draining their system and what is giving them powers, right? So, like, I find out that eating food with gluten and flour-based foods, that is a strain for my system. If I eat chili, that is terrible. Alcohol, even worse. And the late night meals, as I said. So, and my other surprise, for example, in what is charging my body budget is working at the ER. So if I go at the ER, I'm totally calm. It's for me like going to a spa or something.
Wow. Okay.
So, and that is what I would think earlier before I got the trackers. I would think just by default that being at the ER is stress, is work, is stress, is sick people. So it's got to be stressful, right?
Yeah.
But according to my heart rate, I could easily see that that is when I'm in the parasympathetic mode for hours, even on a busy shift. So and which means and now I can also see that, and it doesn't really drain me. I can work for like 15 hours, and that is no problem. But if you put me to make a meal or something, I'm really terrible in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So that would be a lot of stress, right?
Do you
So
is there a link then between stress and also where basically energy level dropping or using more energy than your body can be efficient at when you're under stress versus when you're relaxed, you use less energy, correct?
yeah, correct.
Right.
And you may be surprised that because maybe you would be lying on the couch watching TV, eating a bag of crisps or some candy or chocolate, and you would be thinking that you're relaxing and kind of check that off. Okay, 2 hours relaxing, but your heart rate could reveal that you don't tolerate this very well. Your body is under strain, is creating inflammation in your body, revealed in the heart rate, that makes that those 2 hours actually may drain you of your resources well into the night.
It's almost like you said,
And
your digestive system, if you're eating crappy food or bad food, it's going to make it work harder. That when you're using up energy you could use for something else more in the positive way.
yeah, right. So your body is dealing with some inflammation, while it could rather be the immune system could rather be working at something more productively. Why? Which is why, for example, if you've been drinking alcohol in the days after that, you're more prone to get infectious diseases or viruses and so on, because your body and immune system is allocating its resources towards dealing with the alcohol, and it's kind of a shut system, so that there's a certain amount of energy available for the job, so that, for example, after a poor night of sleep, there will be less of the natural killer cells circulating in your system, so the vigilance towards cancer cells and so on
Hmm.
will be less, which is why, according to Matthew Walker, who wrote the excellent book Why We Sleep, if you sleep less than 6 hours compared to more than 7, you double your risk of cancer. Because less sleep is a stress on your system, and you would get a poor score on the Whoop band and the Oura Ring. It would tell you that, okay, you need more sleep. They will give you advice. They will calibrate their devices towards your system and be able to give you advice on how much you need to sleep. Was this a good night's sleep or not? Or was it good enough for you? And I'm sure that, probably in the US, as in Norway, burnout and fatigue and
Hmm.
brain fog and being stressed out is commonplace. It's something I see every day. And you would not get into that situation without these wearables warning you and blinking, and beeping and telling you that this is not sustainable. You're overtaxing yourself.
It's almost taking what's your day like, take your heart rate monitor and figure out what's your variability during that time. Is that stressful to your body? What are you doing? Is that wearing your body down? And with your diet too, for example, is what you're eating causing inflammation, causing your body to use up more energy. So by the end of the day, you're just done. End of the week, you're done. End of the year, you're just done for whatever you're doing at that point.
Hmm. Yeah, right. Exactly.
You're on
And
track
when
with
you
everything.
see it, and when you see it, what can be measured can be managed, right? So when
Mhm.
you see it, it's easier to detect it, and it's easier to navigate, and also more motivating. When you see the effect of, for example, junk food, it's easier not to eat it. And when you see that the effect of a cold plunge or a cold shower can calm your system down for hours, it's more motivating to go into the uncomfortable cold water, right? And when you see the physiological price of alcohol, it's easier to avoid or minimize it, which would probably be the easiest thing to do. So the first thing people do, I don't think I've met anyone using these wearables that has not cut down on alcohol consumption.
It's almost it's so much of a poison, you want, like, if you want to call it that. It just some people, is it more the mental or the habit of wanting to drink versus not wanting to, versus their health being as important, like you said initially? What's more important, your health long term, or that drink that's going to make you feel good for maybe an hour, a couple hours or so?
Yeah. So it's easier to find that balance in this body budget, you know. So okay,
Yes.
I get this pleasure out of it, and that is the price to pay, that you can see more clearly. So it makes it easy, and then you find that okay, you have to build your capacity. You see that your VO2 max is low, and if you have low VO2 max, your body's always struggling, kind of day and night, just to function. And then you say, okay, I need to increase my body budget. I need more capacity, which you can get from sleeping better, from exercising in a appropriate amount compared to your capacity, to your current capacity. So it's not just like your economy, right? If you didn't know how much money you're making or what thing costs in the store, how would you manage economy? You wouldn't be able to, right? And that is why people can also go physiologically bankrupt if they don't have any insight to what drains them and what gives them more energy.
Doc, you've explained a lot of just getting people to understand how to take care of their health and make it more optimal. Anything we missed that you wanted to bring up?
What could be interesting for women? I'm not sure how many female
Not half.
listeners
Yep.
you have, but for women, the menstrual cycle and the hormones, they have a really, really huge effect on the heart rate variability. So I can see from the readings that, of course, my followers on Instagram and so on send me, that the week before menstruation can be having a heavy toll on their system as a strong COVID infection.
Okay.
So for then women who are troubled by PMS symptoms, that is like having a COVID infection for a week every month, right? And so no wonder that they are the ones who are struggling the most. And when they get this insight into their cycle, and then they can see that, okay, it's that week again, then instead of comforting themselves with food that would further stress their systems or alcohol or whatever, then they are able to mitigate the stress and flatten that curve, so that they will also be relieved of the many of those symptoms from the PMS. And you would be able to see it on the heart rate variability.
Would it be more nutrition, more diet, or increase exercise, or better sleep, or
yeah, all of that. Yeah. So they would do yoga instead of the high intensity training, for example. I know the Norwegian national soccer team, they use the Aura rings to be able to find out that week, so that they can ease down on the intensity of their trainings for that week, because you wouldn't have as much physiological resources to recover when you have this inflammation in your body that week, which is probably because it's too much cortisol in the system, and cortisol kind of backfires on the female sex hormones and disturbs them and give them trouble. And so many of the female troubles from the reproductive system, just like PCOS, just like infertility, like endometriosis, PMS, and all of this has a connection to heart rate variability. And almost any disease that you can Google, or maybe now you put it in the chat GPT and ask if there's a connection, you can ask the diagnose and add heart rate variability, and you will find lots of research usually connected to that disease, because a low heart rate variability is a sign of a struggling immune system, struggling to deal with the challenges.
The metabolic, the inflammatory effects too. Doc, phenomenal work. Do you have one of the books on hand?
The Pulse Cure in my...
Yeah, of course. And also,
I have a the Swedish version, I have the Norwegian version, and
that's
I
fine.
will, in a second, show you the English version here.
There you go. There you go. So
Yeah.
quick 5-second hold with it, with a smile in the book ahead.
Yeah.
5-second hold. Easy, Doc. You did a phenomenal work. I put the show notes link to your book, which I recommend to get anyone who wants to take care of their health to get the book, along with links to thepulsecure.com, along with Instagram to you, Dr. Torkil. Thank you for being on the show today. I personally appreciate you helping me understand what a watch I need next, because mine's a little bit older, to get a new one and upgrade and understand how to take care of my health and make it more optimal. So thank you, Doc. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And I would also say it's also an audiobook, because many of the listeners would rather hear the book instead of reading it. It's my experience.
Perfect. Doc, hang on for 1 second. Thanks for watching, everyone. Let's go to the back office area real quick.